All right. All right. Welcome back to another episode of The Mess in the Middle. And today, my special guest is Trisha. Now, I'm going to take a few minutes to let Trisha tell you guys a little bit about where she's at in her journey. And then we're going to get into some really cool stuff about what's happening in the middle and how to start working through it. So, Trisha, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. So, my name is Trisha. I am a nurse practitioner turned fertility consultant. I started my business back in January, was the very beginning where I just decided to pop on social media one day and tell everybody I was starting a business, and I haven't turned back since. In April, I decided to bring on a mentor because as a nurse practitioner, I know nothing about business. We don't learn anything about business. I had no idea about business and really held me back for a long time. And in April, I did that. And now I am seeing many clients, helping women and couples who are busy, help them optimize their fertility through natural and more holistic strategies.
Nice. What's your degree in?
I have my doctorate as a practitioner.
Okay. And that was the path that you decided you were going to pursue. What made you decide to launch off into your own business?
Yeah, so I worked traditionally as a nurse in the ICU and just saw a lot of
Mm,
acute illness and very sick people. And while we were helping a lot of people in that way, we weren't really helping them in the long term because it wasn't really our job,
right.
but just a lot of chronic illness. And even growing up, I had some issues where there wasn't a traditional medical healing for. I really needed nutrition and lifestyle to heal myself. And so that kind of started things being passionate about that. And then I went and got my nurse practitioner degree. I married a man in the military and
Nice.
is where we lived, and I started having babies. But when we decided to start having babies, I was met with recurrent miscarriage. And
Oh,
so that is what really led me to try to get some answers for myself, because in the traditional medical world, I wasn't really getting any answers. I was being told, like, you have to have more losses. And I'm like, what do you mean I have to lose more? This doesn't make any sense. And so no one would really dig deeper, or it almost to me was like they didn't really know what to do.
mm,
Besides like interventions, obviously, IVF or things like that. I really took matters in my own hands, tried to look up a lot of things of how I could take better care of myself. And that really drove me to see that gap in care in the fertility world and want to
yeah.
fill that with my education and my support and guidance, because not only did I have education, but I had personal experience with it. And I feel like those two things melded together makes the perfect person to be able to do that. And I just felt really led.
That's good. And on that note, almost every business owner I talk to comes out of some kind of solution.
Yeah.
Meaning, I was looking for a solution, couldn't find it, had to go out on my own to explore to try to find it. And now I created one and now I want to share it forward. So that's awesome. And it's such a needed industry, especially in the medical profession. Not that I want to go down that rabbit hole, but there's so many unknowns. I found out I have celiac maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And it was just a freak thing. No symptoms, never issues. I ate what I wanted my whole life and I ate very well and went in for a colonoscopy because I thought I was having issues with iron. So I was taking iron because I'm anemic. And I thought, this looks too rough on my stomach. I feel like it's giving me an ulcer. And just went in for a routine checkup. And luckily, the doctor that I saw was very knowledgeable with stuff like this and biopsied my small intestine. And he said, "Do you have anybody in your family with celiac?" I'm like, I don't even know what that is. What is that? Because no, I didn't. And nowadays they can test for it. They can do a blood work panel and find out your wheat markers and grains and all that kind of good stuff, see how your body's processing it. But prior to that, I didn't know. And if somebody wouldn't have taken the time in the medical field to go the extra step, my colonoscopy was perfect. He's like, "You look great. You must have a really good diet." And I said, "I do." And he could have just let it go at that. But taking gluten out of my diet, oh my gosh, it's like a reversed aging. My joints were achy and I chalked it up to running on concrete for so many years because I'm a runner. My eyes were getting dry. I chalked that up to LASIK that I had when I was in my 20s. Just little things that weren't a deal breaker, but they were enough to slow me down. I just chalked them up to aging, menopause, or this or that. But then when I took gluten out, I was like, oh my gosh, what a difference on how I feel. And it takes a minute, definitely, to adjust to that kind of lifestyle. I eat for different reasons than anybody else. But yeah, it's just somebody taking that extra step to help solve a mystery that may be going on in your body that you had no idea was even on the radar. So
Yeah.
that's awesome that you're doing that because that'll help so many pre families get going again.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that about gluten too, because I see that actually all the time on women, not necessarily that have celiacs. However, I personally know of people that have happened to that really struggled with fertility due to an underlying celiacs. But also, I do a GI map testing in my program that looks a lot at gluten sensitivity because we know that gluten sensitivity, if our gut lining is not healthy, then that all permeates into our outside of our intestines and causes so many issues, just like you were describing. And
Yeah.
that means for fertility clients is inflammation. And so that's a big part of my business is finding that underlying inflammation. So it's funny that you had said that so many people have that same thing. In our world, you go to the doctor and you tell them you had achy joints and they're going to write it off just like you did.
Hmm.
And not all, like you just said, not all providers are like that, which is great. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't, even though they're like, they may be the best practitioner, if they're in a traditional setting, they're seeing you in 10, 15 minutes. You don't have time to learn enough to figure something out about somebody. So that's why I like to do things differently.
That's good. One last note on that. So when he told me that I had celiac, I said, "So what do I do?" And he says, "The good news is there's no medicine." Because I'm like, I don't take things. I just, unless it's a supplement or bees or something, I'm not taking it. And he said, "The bad news is there's no cure." And I'm like, "Okay, so what do I do?" And he says, "Go find a good nutritionist, eat on the outside of the grocery store. That's it. Go enjoy your life." And I'm like, "What?" How do you give somebody that diagnosis? But it really is that simple. Don't
Yeah.
eat stuff that comes out of a box and take
Yeah.
care of yourself. And
For
and that
someone
is
who,
it.
I was going to say, for someone who already had healthy eating, it probably wasn't all that difficult. Um,
Believe it or not, it was because I was a
oh,
serious wheat eater. So breakfast for me was like a cup of steel cut oatmeal, dry wheat toast. I ate really well, but I was eating the wrong things for me. So, yeah, it's just lesson learned. And I guess kind of something to take away from all of this is don't dismiss things that may be going on because what we think they are or what Google Medicine tells us it is isn't always accurate, that there could be something else underlying and get it checked out. There's plenty of experts out there now to give you the right information instead of letting Google Med tell us the answer.
yeah. You said you had things with your eyes and things with your joints. And while you looked at them as isolated things, another experienced practitioner or consultant or coach can look at those things and be like, okay, I see this all the time with this. And they're actually not separate at all. They're
It's all
very similar.
connected.
It's all connected.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the last suckers I got out of celiac is there's an autoimmune issue called Sjogren's.
Mhm.
I hate that thing. So for those of you listening that don't know what that is, if you have really dry eyes, so what it does is it dries out all your glands. So it dries out your nose, dries out your mouth, and dries out your eyes. And it's a hitchhiker. It seems to hop on to people that have some kind of autoimmune issue. I've known people with Hashimoto's or lupus or celiac that it comes along with no cure. There's really, you don't take pills or anything for it, but it does make you drink a lot of water. And triggers are caffeine, too much sugar, alcohol, and you just do all that with moderation and it's manageable, but still very inconvenient. And I think the mouth thing is the worst for me.
Oh, yeah. And any autoimmune disease puts you at risk for other autoimmune diseases. And
Yeah.
it's like but you're doing all the right things by
Yeah.
nutrition and lifestyle are the biggest things for sure. And you can
Yeah.
control those.
and I can control those. I don't always want to control
Right.
those, but yeah, we do what we got to do. All right. So let's shift to business. So let's talk about what's your journey been like. So you started in January, you hired your mentor, coach person in April.
Mhm.
Okay. During those first 4 months, what was life like for you?
Yeah, so I did have an automated course that I was using to help me, which I highly recommend, just like getting the
Okay.
help you need early. So that was beneficial for me. And it helped me knock out those first things like create an LLC, get your EIN, do all those beginning, set up your social media accounts and all of that. And so that's what I was really like working on, like the back end stuff. But I was
Mm.
also telling, I always say this, I like coined this. I don't know, maybe it's not mine, but everybody with ears. I told everybody with ears about my business and
Good.
not I'm going to be starting a business, not like I will be, but I own this business. I am doing this. I'm seeing clients, even though I didn't even have my first client yet. I just very confidently spoke life into it from
Yeah.
the very beginning. And I think that was really beneficial because word of mouth is so powerful in your community, and local
Mhm.
marketing has been a big thing for me, and so just really all of my first clients came from just telling everybody. So that's really what I did those first 4 months is told everybody with ears that I
Good.
owned a business as a fertility consultant and that that was what I was doing.
Good. Now, did you keep your day job? Keep seeing patients through that? Or
Yeah, so I work very part-time, just
okay.
a membership-based practice, helping him out like when he goes out of town and things like that. And I also do a little bit of laser aesthetics and see some sick walk-in visits. But I was already working mostly part-time with that. But then I was also a nursing professor at a local university.
Okay.
And I stepped away from that job because I wanted more time to be able to dedicate to my business, but also I felt like that season had ended for me. That season of teaching was really beneficial to lead me into teaching my clients now, but everything is, like, for a season, I think sometimes, and that was definitely for a season for me.
That's good. That and it gave you practice. Like you just said, it gave you some opportunity to teach somebody that. How do you change it down to layman's terms where somebody that doesn't have the knowledge can understand what you're trying to say? That is super, super important, especially when you're teaching somebody, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're teaching your clients
Mhm.
how to get better results from something they're trying to achieve. For them, it just happens to be a baby. For somebody else, it could be a website or some, but that's really what you're doing. You're trying to help them achieve a result they're looking for. Now, when you hired your mentor, how'd you go about selecting the person you've chosen?
I always say that God led me right to her because I didn't
Okay.
even look around. It was just like one day I saw this post on Instagram. She was also a nurse practitioner, so
Okay.
there was that relatability factor there, and I was like, "Oh, if she did this, I can do this." And then I saw like that she would offered services to help as a mentor, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be smart about this. If I want to do this,
Hmm.
I know where my zone of genius is, and it's in this fertility space, but it's not in business." And so
Right.
I was like, all right, I know that it takes money to invest in, but it's an investment in myself. And often we tend to not invest in ourselves. We'll invest in
Yeah.
a million other things before we'll invest in ourselves. And so I just really think that all of my life experiences leading up to that finally was just like, okay, well, you get to invest in yourself now. And of course, having a spouse that was very supportive of that and
Good.
on board was helpful. But I would have convinced him even if he wasn't.
And I gotta
uh,
do this.
I know when I know I wanna do something, I'm gonna do it. He knows there's no
Yeah.
stopping me.
Right.
I just really recognized that I needed the help in the business aspect of things, and honestly, it has propelled my growth in this business far more than I could have imagined, I think.
Hmm. That's good. One of the challenges that I see often with business owners is they don't invest in themselves because they look at it like, I shouldn't need help. I'm trying to launch my business. I should already know the answers. But if they really sat down and thought about it, you're not going to just go to college with no experience and then walk out of there with your degree. Somebody's going to have to teach you how to do something you've never done before. I have no idea why we think this way, but I could tell you story after story of business owners I've talked to that have done really well in their W-2, in their job, made a lateral move over to start a business and think that they are going to stay at that level of expertise and then just run to the top with their business. But what they don't get is nobody's backfilling all that knowledge that other business owners had, that their boss had. Unless they're, even me as a VP of marketing of companies, I still didn't know what was happening in HR or in operations or systems or different departments, even though I was running a multi-million-dollar company. Nobody backfills that. You're still going to have to go through it to learn that stuff. And that's good that you were, I want to say, humble enough, because some people just won't. We're achievers, we're drivers, we're get it done kind of people. So to say, oh, I'm up here from my expertise level, but let me come back down here and start at the bottom and ask for help. That is super challenging
Yeah.
for many.
And I hear a lot of people say, I've had a lot of people reach out to me because I have had success fairly quickly so far. And they've reached out to me and like, if or when I get my first client, then I'll invest in this. And I'm
If
like,
or when.
but here's the thing is I invested so I could. So I knew that the back end stuff was all taken care of. And I knew what I was doing so that I could do all those other things and didn't have to sit spinning my wheels on all these questions that I had. How should I see my clients? How much should I charge? What should I
Right.
be doing with them? All those things, having someone who's done that before
Right.
to be able to guide me through that was just invaluable. And had I waited until I got my first client or whatever,
Could
it
have
would
been
take me longer.
it could be another 6 months or something.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to now, mind you, I've been doing this for many years. I've been in the digital marketing space since 2009. And then before that, I had a title company for 6 years. And before that, I owned a coffee shop. So I've started over and then worked my way up and tapped out. And I'm like a 7-10 year, and then I'm ready to try something new. It's like once I master it, I'm like, okay, I need something else. I was getting there with marketing, and then AI came along and it pulled me back in. But I'm getting ready to put on my first solo event. Now, mind you, I've done hundreds and hundreds of events for clients, but I typically handle the marketing, the sales, helping out at the events. I've never actually been the person doing the functions of the event. I can build the website, the opt-ins. I got all the technology, all that, but there's like pieces of it. I have no idea how they work. And so as I start going into this event, I'm like, who do I think I am? I can't pull this off. I'm not going to wing it, because I did teeter. Should I just wing it and plan for a really small event so I can manage it? Or do I do it right? And I'm out there like you, watching, paying attention to who's doing what, and connected with a guy that's done these events in this space. And we started a conversation. I'm like, let's partner together. So I'll split the revenue with you, but I need somebody to, I know steps like 1, 2, 3, 8, 14, and then through 20. There's just a few key ones. And once I go through it, I'll be fine. But I do need, even with the knowledge that I have, I do need some help.
Yeah, it's always good to be able to admit that because you're always going to get further, and winging it in the beginning, I don't think is a bad thing.
Sister, I have winged it so many times throughout the last 20 years. I'm like, I don't know. Let's figure it out.
I know. Yes, very much. But I think that's like part of the entrepreneurial mindset. I'm a perfectionist in some things, but like with this, I was just like, oh, let's do it. I'll figure it out. My first client I was like, okay, I'll figure out what I'm going to talk to you about. And you knew, but it's nailing down all that organization and stuff. But we call it messy action.
Yeah.
And it's just because if you wait till things are perfect, you're never going to do it. You're
You're
never going
never
to
going
do
to
it
die.
because they never will be. And I think I learned in my doctorate program too. I forget what the name of the model is, but it talks about how in the beginning you have one person that you're going to do something with, and you can make a small cohort, and then that allows you to make mistakes and it allows you to learn from those mistakes and it allows you to develop things. And then you go on and have this larger event where once you have all the things ironed out and you don't want to make a big, huge mistake in front of a large audience of people, like you were talking about. So you hire somebody on, but starting small, but you
Yeah.
have to take action. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just theory, right? Forever and ever, it was the more knowledgeable you are, the more success you'll have. But then fast forward, especially with the internet and all the knowledge that's available, it means nothing if you don't actually implement it.
Oh, I've
And
been there. Yeah.
it's great to learn stuff, but if you don't actually do anything with it, stop wasting your time learning stuff. There's no
Yeah.
point in it. Go do something fun. Go kayaking or
And I think people always think, and I am a testament to this, I think people think, oh, I just need that degree or I just need that extra thing. And when we moved back to America, I really did have a hard time finding a job as a nurse practitioner that fit the time constraint that I had because I have 3 young children. But I just wasn't sure. So I couldn't find anything and I hit the panic button. I was like, oh my gosh, let me go back for my doctorate. And 2 weeks later, I was enrolled in my doctorate program. And that is just who I am. But I didn't really need my doctorate. It's valuable and I'm glad I got it. But I was just like felt paralyzed because I felt like I just needed more education. I needed more this. And then with functional medicine, there's a million different degrees, certifications you can get. But it's like what I would tell somebody if anybody in your space is trying to start like a health type business is like you already know more than your client probably does. What seems common knowledge to you, and this is probably and it really works for
anybody.
anybody.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
seems common knowledge to you is not common knowledge to your clients. So it might feel like you don't know enough, but you do. You do.
Mhm. That's great advice. There's so many of you out there that keep going from course to course, never finishing the course, but looking for that piece that you think is missing, and it's not. The only way to do it is just get in. Your client, the feedback that you'll get from them is going to be more valuable than any course that you could possibly take. You do have to know something. So you can't go out there and just sell something that you know nothing about, but also just trust in the fact that the more conversation you have with your ideal client or the customer you're trying to sell to, the more it will confirm that you know enough, and you'll build on that as you go through it. The more you do, the better you'll get, the more mistakes you'll make, the more you'll learn, and it'll evolve into something. But just like Trisha just said, if you don't start, you'll be having the same conversation 6 months from now because you were getting ready, because you were trying to make it perfect. If you do have that issue where you're afraid to pull the trigger, there's a great book out by a gentleman, I think it's Mike Masterson. It's called Ready, Fire, Aim. It's been around a long time, but man, it's so good for perfectionists or people that think that the sky's going to open up and the sun's going to shine when it's time to go. There's a launch or a special moment, there's not. You're just going to trick into it, and then before you're like, oh, hey, wait a second, I'm 6 months in. I got 10 clients. I'm doing this. I'm serving this. I launched it. It's not that magnificent unveiling. You got to get in and go.
Absolutely. Someone asked me the other day, what did you do when you launched your business? I was like, I don't know. I got on Instagram one day and just told everybody on my stories I was starting a business. And then I started posting about my business. And that was that. It wasn't some
Okay.
crazy, amazing launch or anything like
Normally
that.
it's not. It's
But
messy and unstructured, and you just do it.
because if it had to be perfect, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And like you just said, I look back, it's been 5, 6 months, and I am just blown away by the amount of progress I made. I couldn't have had this conversation like this with you 6 months ago.
That's awesome. So, what is it about your service that makes you stand out or makes you different than the other people in your same space?
So I would say that the big difference that I've seen, especially if you compare me to a functional medicine provider that you could go to maybe in your local community, is the depth of connection that we have together. In
Okay.
my program, we see each other every other week. And so we really develop a connection with each other. And I'm your support system and your guidance and your expertise, guiding you through that fertility journey, helping you make the decisions that are specific to you and your body. So you could go on the internet and Google probably all these things, but you don't know what is the best for you. And so that's
Mhm.
where I can help you do that. And we do the functional testing. But really, the difference is it's like we're like fertility BFFs. I tell all my clients because I'm like, I'm walking through this with you. You have a question, you don't go to Google anymore. You message me. That's it.
Good.
And so many of my clients have, and the majority of my clients are medical professionals. They're
Interesting.
educated. I have pharmacists, I have nurse managers, I have physician, I have ophthalmologists, a lawyer, teachers, and they're all very educated people, but they know what, back to what I said about business, they know what their zone of genius is, and it's not
Mhm.
what my zone of genius is. And so they are tired of exhausting themselves going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole on the internet, trying to scour through journal articles and figure out what they should be doing for their own bodies, and then have found that relief in me because they don't need to do that anymore. And I can just help guide them through that journey. And so I think if you go to any other provider, you're going to get a little bit of guidance. Maybe they'll tell you, like you said in the beginning
Yeah.
of your doctor said, shop the perimeter of the grocery store and don't eat wheat. Okay,
Right.
great. That's the truth. That's actually true. But how many people are really able to implement that in long term if they don't have that foundation and that support and that guidance? A lot of people, how many people have failed at a diet? Hi. We all have, because you need
Yeah.
accountability, you need support, you need to be able to do it that fits your lifestyle, and you need that guidance. And you need to look at, it's not always just nutrition either. And some people will
Right.
just get told that as well. But just really that support you're not gonna
Mhm.
get outside of the four walls of a doctor's office.
Right. Okay. All right. So what about scaling? Now, at some point, this TLC that you're providing your clients is top rate, but you will run out of bandwidth. So what does that look like for you?
So I'm currently working on an automated course.
Okay.
So it will be used as a resource with my clients as well, so that they can review the material a little bit more on their own, and we can just really discuss questions and things that they have and really hone into that versus me reteaching it every single time. But also the automated course will be for women and couples out there who maybe can't afford that higher ticket investment for a one-on-one
Okay.
consultant, and it will make that information the same information that I tell my clients day in and day out. And it won't be as personalized because they won't have the lab work, but a lot of the same things will still hold true. And so they'll be able to implement that in their own lives with that. And maybe eventually down the pipeline, maybe groups, because there's power, so much power in community. So I'd
Mhm.
love to offer a group offering as well.
Okay. Good. So what happens with, so what is the goal? They stay with you until they're pregnant, or they stay with you until they figure out what's going on with their body and then they move on? What does that look like?
So in the 4 months, we do the,
4
functional
months. Okay.
testing, and yeah, we do it. It's a 4-month program. However, I do offer membership, and you can stay in membership with me is like a yearly thing where I will do, you have a certain amount of visits that you can use whenever appeases you,
Okay.
whenever you need me really to try to bounce ideas off of and consult and see if things change. For instance, a client who does not get pregnant in the first 4 months, because we know that those changes take time.
Right.
Say maybe they get pregnant, but then they have all these other questions about early pregnancy and late pregnancy or postpartum. Then they are able to like make appointments as they see fit and visits, and we can talk over all of that as well.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
so 4 months. No, everybody doesn't end up pregnant. Always
All
at
right.
the beginning.
Time's up. Get out.
Yeah. But I'm happy to stick with them because I think that guidance is
Yeah.
just the support.
And the reason why I wanted to dig in this is even if you're listening to this and you say it doesn't pertain to me because I'm not in the same space she's at, apply this across any kind of coaching. So if you're a coach at all or a service-based business, this model that Trisha was just talking about would work for an accountant, would work for a fitness coach, a business coach. The model itself, the widgets is not relevant. It's the process of what she's building. So what she told you was she's got one-to-one. She's also will create a course for people that can't afford her, which could also be part of her value ladder. So putting out some content, maybe giving some people some basic stuff. The next level would be the course that they could take on their own. The next level would be one-on-one. And then as she evolves through the business, it turns into coaching or to group coaching, which that's a typical business model for anybody out there, especially in the coaching industry. She's building it the right way. She went out, she found work or support early on because she recognized if I'm going to do this right, I'm going to commit all the way up. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody has to go out and hire a mentor or a coach. If that's not the position that you're in, that's okay. Go to YouTube, go to Coursera, go to your local library and get a library card, which gives you access to LinkedIn Learning. There are plenty of free resources out there. If you want to learn how to do this stuff, you're going to have to put the time in. We put in time or we put in money. You've got to decide where you're at. What do you have more of at the beginning of this journey? And then you just go in. But something that she said at the very beginning of this podcast was she was committed to doing it. And she made sure that the language and the way she shows up reflected that. I can't tell you how many business owners over the year where I hope I start a business. I'm looking to find a first client. I will pay for that once I have business. I will do that once the customers come in. That language sets your intention, sets your subconscious mind thinking about what's important, what's not important. Oh, they said they'll do that when that happens. Okay, I don't need to worry about figuring this out right now. It's not, I hope. Remove hope from your vocabulary, remove but from your vocabulary. You have to talk in I am, I have, I'm doing. So your subconscious mind will then figure out the solutions. I know that was a lot, but it really is that important, especially as you start to build this. You get a few clients. And if we check with Trisha now and then we check back with her in 3 months, she will be able to tell us how much has evolved, what has changed. She could say, I tried the course, I couldn't deliver it in this way, so I went this way. You just continue to solve things as they come up. We don't know what we don't know. Things are going to come up that we don't have a plan for. It's okay. It's part of the business. Stop trying to figure it all out before you take that journey because it's not going to work. It's all going to change.
I think one of my mentors said there are no failures in business, just lessons learned. And I think that's
Absolutely.
really powerful.
Absolutely. It's important that we take risk. If you're risk adverse, you may want to think twice about starting a business because it is not for people that need security, that want stability, that want to work 9 to 5, not at the beginning. Down the road, you can set those kind of boundaries for yourself once there's revenue and you're able to delegate tasks to somebody else. But at the beginning, buddy, it's all you.
I asked my husband, I said, you think I work like 15 hours a week on the business? He's 50. Because every moment I'm trying to squeeze out now, I have 3 little ones. So it's really in between the moments. But it is a lot in the beginning because you're the everything, just the practitioner, but it's totally worth it. And one of my biggest goals that I look to is once I'm making huge revenues, like how can I give back? I think I struggled a little bit now in the beginning, now that I've found success with making money. That's a whole other thing. Like money,
Yeah.
I felt some guilt around that.
Sure.
And so I think no, I'm really helping people find solutions. And just like I invested in a business mentorship to help me feel more invested in myself, people invest in me, and that makes them more invested on their healing journey. And so that's been a big thing for me, but I'm excited to be able to give back too.
That's really good. And as these people, I know you're only 6 months in, 8 months in, but as your clients start to get results, just knowing that, remove the money for a second, but just knowing the impact that you're having in their lives, you help them solve something they couldn't solve.
Yeah. And it's
So,
been so amazing just hearing their testimonials and just them verbally confirming that I'm where I'm supposed to be and I have followed that calling and that I was meant to do this.
that's awesome. Isn't green lights just stupid fun? This is too easy. This is like, you're like waiting for the other shoe to drop. When you get that momentum, where there's
Yeah.
nothing sexier in a business than momentum.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Okay, so you're going to group coaching. We'll wrap this all together. What happens after that? What do you foresee? the business evolving into?
I have no idea.
No? Okay. That's okay too.
Um, I don't think I will ever wanna give up seeing clients
Yeah.
one-on-one. It'll probably be a smaller subset. I do think eventually there'll be more coaches involved besides
Okay.
me, like nutrition coaches, lifestyle coaches to help fill those spots where I normally did. Right now I'm doing the heavy work, but I'll fill those with educated people to fill those roles and help my clients and hopefully people who are also passionate about fertility. I don't think it will be hard to find people at all.
Mhm.
So that really will be that. And then I'll take the lead on it. And what I would really love to do is I'm a God fearing woman and Jesus loving girl. And I want to be able to deliver conferences for
Nice.
women and couples, really couples struggling with infertility and would love to speak on that. We went to a marriage conference in Asheville a couple weeks ago at the Billy Graham Center, and I told my husband, I said, I will be here again someday
Ah,
speaking to couples on their infertility struggle and how to use faith throughout that struggle to really strengthen their marriage and their relationship with the Lord. And that is one thing that I will do someday. I'm working towards that now. Believe it or not, I have another discipleship course I'm taking, always looking for
nice.
to better myself and get closer to the Lord. That is something that I would love to do, and once I have team built out,
Yeah.
that will be achievable. So that is really the next steps, but I'm not trying to think too much in the details of how that
Yeah,
will
no.
happen. It just will. I'll get there.
Just well. Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, that's really fun. What a great path that you're on and the openness to, just I always say you can't have faith and fear at the same time. So even though we don't have all the answers and sometimes we don't even know what the next step is, especially when it comes to business, just having faith that something will show itself in whatever direction I'm supposed to go, whatever the next call is, whatever the next widget is, it'll show itself. And then I start walking through there until the doors open or the doors close and I'll pivot again. I think that is probably one of the biggest elements that we need to own as entrepreneurs is having more faith than we do fear. It is scary. You are going to have some fear. So I'm not saying get rid of it or don't have it, but you've got to weigh more on the other side and just be
Yeah.
dynamic. Just, you know what? You're still driving, but at the same time, things are going to come to you. Try to say yes as many times as you can. And if something will come from it, great. If it doesn't, but be open to the possibilities of where it could take you.
Yeah. We really have to be open to the pivots that life throws at us, and maybe it takes a different path than what we expected, but trust that you'll still get there and you'll be where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's really good. So, to wrap things together, what kind of advice would you give somebody that maybe is at the same place you are, can't financially hire a coach yet? What kind of advice would you give them?
I would just say to really delve into there's so much free resources online. Could have I done what I did for free? Yes, I could have. It just takes time, and time just wasn't something I had. So we had talked about that. So I would say use as much free resources as you can. Follow
Yeah.
people who are doing what you're doing. You're not copycatting, you're just using them as an example. Um, and delve out, look through for those free resources, and then invest where it makes sense. Really think about it and meld over whether that's a good investment or not so that you can get growth. But also, like you said, just use that positive language. I am going to do this. Tell everybody with
I
ears.
am doing this.
Yeah, yes, I am going to do this. I am doing this. I'm doing this. And just surround yourself with people who are doing maybe not exactly what you're doing, right? Or like business adjacent. Like I talk about like people who are doing something like a similar clientele,
Complimenting.
but
Yeah.
not exactly complementary businesses. Do not sleep on local. Local, I'm a part of my chamber of commerce. I'm actually having a ribbon cutting for my business tomorrow and
Nice.
bring a lot of publicity. And it was a very low cost investment. And
Yeah.
you're surrounded by fellow entrepreneurs and small business owners who want to see you succeed. And I
Yeah.
actually went to a coffee and connection with them this morning, and they really want you to succeed. And I never experienced that. Even sometimes when you, I don't know how your beginning of your entrepreneurial journey was, but people for me, like sometimes even like my closest friends were not very supportive.
All
Um,
right.
they were, or my family was like, well, why are you doing that? You've got your nurse practitioner degree, you have your doctorate. Why aren't you doing it so it fits in the box? And I
Right.
didn't wanna fit in the box, and I've never really fit in the box, and so I finally figured out that I didn't fit in the box, and I'm so glad that I decided that and didn't listen to the people around me. Not that you shouldn't listen to the people around you, but maybe don't take it. Think about this, I think this is the way that I would think about it. Is the person who's maybe giving you negative feedback about you starting a business your ideal client? If they're
Yeah.
not your ideal client, then it doesn't really matter.
Right.
I have told my parents before.
I love you,
That's
but you're not
okay.
going to buy from me.
That's fine that you don't because you're not my ideal client. And so you wouldn't understand. And it's not rude, it's just the truth.
Right. Here's the other side of that. So typically, when family or friends can't support you, meaning that one, they're making it about them, and two, it's their fear that they're projecting on you. It has nothing to do with what you're doing or what you're not doing. They know that they would never do that because they don't, it's not, I don't want to say that they don't have the courage, but it takes some courage to do what we do. But that they're not comfortable with that risk or that uncertainty or the fear of the unknown or even the drive or purpose to do it. And that's their projection. Oh no, you need to get a job. You have a degree. I think I got when my kids were younger, because I was a single parent, I got a no, Audrey, you need to have a job. You have 3 kids to support. You need that steady income. And I'm like, I am drowning here in this job because it wasn't for me. I still did it out of responsibility. So I'm not saying don't do it. You need to do what you need to do to provide for your family, but that's where you get hesitation or lack of support from people around you is because they're projecting their own junk on you. So you do need to look at it and say, okay, is this about me or is it about them?
Mm,
Do they understand? It's at the end of the day, it's just you. You got to be able to look in the mirror and say, I'm willing to do what it's going to take to pull this off. And not everybody around my circle is going to support me. And I got to be okay with that.
yeah. And you
Yeah.
feel that confident every single day.
I just been doing this for
There
20
will be
years. So I
days
know
yeah,
they trip you up.
there will be days that you wonder, and then you go back and listen to motivational podcasts like this, and then
Yeah.
you will feel much better and you will be back in that right mindset. I can't, I know who I can reach out to get like a boost of confidence when I'm feeling more, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?
Mm.
You'll know those people that you can reach out to and those who you won't be able to because they'll just suck the life more out of you. But that's where,
See, I told you you should have got a job.
yeah,
See,
exactly.
I
That
wouldn't
would
have
be my,
done that if I was
yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be my mom. I love her. That'd be her.
Oh,
That'd be her.
she just loves you. So how you reason that is, look, she did the best she could with the resources she had, and her limit and her comfort zone is right here, and that's okay. And
Yeah,
I've actually had to have that hard conversation with my mom. Look, mom, I know this isn't for you, but even if you can't be supportive, you got to hold back your judgment or concerns. Maybe concerns is better because I'm stepping out into something that's unknown for me. And I need you to cheer me on and say, do it, Audrey, you got this. So I need that person. I don't need the, oh, are you sure?
yeah.
That's a little scary. Come back. I don't want that person.
And I'm very much, oh, wow, look at all the people I can help. And I'm just so passionate about the way I am helping
Yeah.
people that to me, like the money's secondary, but they're
Yeah.
very like money driven. I had a pretty big month last month and then I told her how much I made and she was like, then it was like, oh, well, okay.
Maybe I could
Well,
respect this now. Yeah, or support it. Good for you.
yeah.
That's awesome. However, people have to justify it. As long
Yeah.
as you don't change your path, you're
Yes. Even in those beginnings when I wasn't making any money, I just have to remember, write it on your mirror, write it on a note card, why you're doing what you're doing, and
yeah.
remember that and don't let anybody talk you out of it because you had an idea, God put it on your heart, and you need to follow through with it.
That just gave me chills.
Mm.
One more note on that. Somebody told me God would not have given you the idea if you didn't have the skill or the drive to pull it off.
Yeah. And you know what?
And yeah,
We don't have the skill or the drive to do anything. We get it from him, and that's where our power
right,
comes from. And you don't need like you just said, you don't need it. You don't need to have it
right.
figured out because he does. And like you said, if he gave you the idea, that's all you need. He'll
That's
give
gotta
you the
be
rest
enough.
too.
As you need it. Maybe not as you want it, but definitely as you need it.
Yes. Yes. That.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Trisha. This has been such fun. I'm so glad we were able to talk about this and little different podcast, but I want you guys to remember when you're trying to get through this middle, even though she's at the beginning, she's still in it. And we're working through things that are new, things that come up, different perspectives, different dynamics that you're going to have to learn how to manage. And somebody has laid the path before you. You just have to trust that you're on the right path. And as long as those lights are green, man, keep going. Don't stop. So until next time, keep moving through the middle. Thanks, Trisha.
Thank you.